Well, this week on the show, we're going to talk about microbes. What is that? Well, we've got one of the experts right here, and there's a special speaker series coming up, Central Forum, that's ongoing, and one of the speakers, Allan Mckeown. Thanks for being here, Allan.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. This is an interesting topic, and just before we started this interview, you sort of said that sometimes people are afraid of this kind of thing, and you're kind of hoping to change some of that. But before we get into this topic, tell everybody who you are so they actually know that you know a little bit about what you're talking about.
Right. Well, I worked at the microbiology lab at the hospitals for 31 years. I was the technical specialist.
Okay.
I was in charge of the microbiology lab and the day-to-day operations of the lab.
Right. So what are microbes?
Microbes, that's a term that's short for microorganisms,
Okay.
which are bacteria, fungi, yeasts, viruses, parasites,
Right.
all the tiny little creatures that we can't see,
Right.
but which are part of a massive universe that we need to keep us healthy.
Right.
You know, it's not an us versus them situation.
Oh, okay.
Most microbes are essential to our health.
Right. Because when you say all those big words like parasites, they sound really negative and horrible, but they're not necessarily.
They're not necessarily at all. And as I say, we should have a better understanding of our interrelationship. We actually have a very intimate relationship with our microorganisms.
Okay.
And they really play an important role in keeping us healthy. So part of my presentation at the Central Forum will be to just help people understand the role of microbes and how they keep us healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's always some bad ones too, of course. You know, the old Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, right.
Right? Just like most people are good, most microbes are good.
Yeah.
But there's always a few bad actors. So they can hurt us, they can harm us, they can make us sick, they can kill us. But the vast majority are an intimate, healthy relationship with us, and we need them.
Right. You must find it interesting right now then, listening to the World Health Organization talk and the concerns right now with the coronavirus. That would be something that would interest you.
Well, absolutely, and you know, it's interesting to see the other virus that's spreading, the virus of fear and concern. Understandably, because you know this could be a pandemic. It probably already is, and that's something probably I'll address in the presentation, because this virus came probably from a wild animal, being sold at a market in China.
Right.
And so there you have people in very close relationship to wild animals getting exposed to their excretions and then picking up their viruses. The viruses are mutating in our bodies and making us sick, and then we transmit them to other people. So you know, this is a huge, huge concern, and I don't think there has been enough effort in educating people about how we need to protect ourselves from these wild viruses.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think, you know, we all have a family doctor, and I would say most of us likely have a relationship with our family doctor.
Right.
And we tend to just rely on what the doctor says, take this pill, or, you know, wash your hands and all that sort of stuff. But again, we hear that word virus, and it just sounds really terrible, right? So we rely on the doctor, but why is this so much more important that people understand just in our daily lives, I would say, even at home, to understand a little. You don't have to become a microbiologist, but understand a little better, right?
Well, you know, one of the things that people really need to understand is that there is a big, big difference between a virus and a bacteria. Mm-hmm. And that if you have a virus infection, you don't treat it with antibiotics. And that's one of the things I'll be talking about in the presentation. Because one of the huge public health concerns now around the world is the development of resistance, antibiotic resistance among bacteria. And that is because of the widespread misuse and abuse of antibiotics.
Okay.
So, you know, if you go to the doctor with a flu or some kind of viral infection, Very often you might ask for an antibiotic, or even the doctor might prescribe an antibiotic, but if it's a virus, the antibiotic isn't going to kill the virus. But what it does do is it gets into your body, and the bacteria in your body recognize it as something that's dangerous to them, so then they start to mutate and develop resistance to the antibiotic. It's a survival mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So they evolve to develop resistance to that antibiotic, and then you can spread that antibiotic-resistant bacteria then to other people.
And this can go, I would say, there's a lot of history to this. And what I mean by that is, like if we go back, let's talk penicillin for a moment, you know.
Right.
We go way back into wartime. That was something that would just give you penicillin. And then coming out of that, I was always told that I was allergic to penicillin.
Right.
Come to find out later in life, my doctor said, maybe not. They would say if you lined up 10 people that said they were allergic to penicillin, maybe 8 of them, or maybe 2 out of that 10 actually were. Is that a part of what you're talking about? Is over time things become immune, and or was it just something like that was misused at a certain time?
Well, yeah, Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin, he warned the world that if this antibiotic was overused and misused, that it would become eventually useless.
Yeah.
And it's not totally useless right now, but more and more bacteria have acquired resistance to it over the years. And just to give you one example, gonorrhea was always treated with penicillin.
Yeah.
Now penicillin is absolutely useless in the treatment of gonorrhea because it has developed resistance to it.
Interesting.
And now gonorrhea has become a very, very difficult infection to treat.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where it may be impossible to treat. So this is the crisis that we're facing. More and more bacteria are becoming untreatable. The infections are becoming untreatable because the bacteria are not totally, but multiply resistant.
Right. And is that why we see, I guess, what you'd call cousins to, like amoxicillin would be a cousin to
That's right.
penicillin, because they're trying to adapt to what they're trying to fight? Is that how that works?
Oh, well, yeah. The pharmaceutical companies have been modifying the antibiotic, chemistry. So you're right. Ampicillin and amoxicillin was developed from penicillin.
Yeah.
They modified the penicillin to become more active against more bacteria. And so as the bugs became resistant to penicillin, then you could always use ampicillin and amoxicillin. And on it's gone,
Yeah.
More and more antibiotics have been discovered. But the point is, the crisis now is we're running out of antibiotics,
So what do we do now?
Well, that's the big question. That's
Right?
the big question.
If we could solve that problem, we'd be pretty popular, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that sort of leads back into the start of this conversation, is why it's important for people to understand what they can do at home and in their daily lives, I guess, to prevent some of these things from occurring.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why governments step in and regulate, yes, you can have that animal for a pet. No, you can't have that. You can't transport. And when we look at the coronavirus, and you say it probably came from a wild animal. Maybe just a side note on this. You're listening to the World Health Organization, probably following that really closely. And you mentioned the word pandemic, that comes right after the epidemic.
Right.
Do you think the World Health Organization is handling this properly? Do you think this coronavirus, just based on what you've read and maybe heard on the CBC, that are they handling this properly?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're doing everything they can to address the issue.
Kind of what they're all about.
Yeah, that's right. They're the experts.
Yeah. And moving forward now with your talk, go a little deeper into what else you'll be sharing with folks.
Yeah, well, what I'd like to share with everyone also is, some of the latest research that's coming out about the role of microbes and how they're impacting our health. There's some just amazing discoveries in the last 10, 20 years. For example, they're finding that bacteria might be involved in Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
Yeah. Who would have thought, right? I mean, this is just a mind-boggling discovery. They're also discovering that the balance of our gut flora, the microbes in our gut, is essential to keeping us healthy. And if that balance becomes imbalanced due to various factors, that may contribute to the development of obesity and diabetes and other conditions. So I'll be discussing all these potential effects of if we create an imbalance in our gut of healthy bacteria, how that can negatively impact our health in other ways.
I would say you would be attracting a lot of people to come out and listen to that topic. I mean, I'm type 2 diabetic. I have a family member who's suffering from Alzheimer's, and so those are large numbers. Mm-hmm. So I would say that there'd be a lot of people interested in what you have to say. Is the medical world listening to all of this? Like, I mean, you're talking about, you're sharing this. Or are they picking up? Sometimes somebody has an idea, and well, I don't know. They have to look at it. Are they listening to this?
Yeah. The medical world is slow to change in many ways, but there is a lot of research going on. It takes time to do the research, and then it takes time to convince people that the research is valid.
I would think so.
So yeah. But it's fascinating what the discoveries are that are being made today, and it's quite exciting actually. And another exciting discovery or another exciting area of research is that scientists are now using viruses to attack cancers. So, viruses are something that we fear, but we can turn them to our advantage.
Right.
And, they already have been used to treat so-called untreatable melanoma, skin cancer. Really? They can use viruses to get into the tumor and destroy it. So,
sounds like a bit of a hair of the dog.
Yeah.
What kills you can cure you at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that kind of the philosophy a bit?
Well, it's taking your enemy strength and turning it and using that and using your enemy strength to target another enemy.
Right.
So it's fascinating.
Right. Well, I'm hoping I can get out and see you because you've really caught my attention here for sure. And you obviously know your stuff, so we'll be looking forward to that as part of the Central Forum series. Allan, thank you so much for your time here.
Thanks very much, Dave. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing everyone at the forum.
Absolutely. Allan Mckeown, you're going to have to come out and check him out. We're going to go back into the studio now, and I'll give you some information on where you can see Allan, and we're going to be in the future talking to some of the other speakers coming up to the Central Forum as well.
See you there.